Something unusual is happening around the Iraqi dinar again, and if you follow the economic signals coming out of Iraq closely, the recent developments may be more important than they first appear. Over the past few weeks, several different pieces of the puzzle have started moving at the same time: regional geopolitics, oil market pressure, banking system modernization, and renewed discussion about long-delayed economic laws inside Iraq. None of these factors alone confirm a major currency shift, but together they are creating a situation that many analysts are watching very carefully. The first layer of this story begins with the rising geopolitical tension in the Middle East. Conflicts involving Iran, the United States, and Israel have created serious concern across global markets. One of the biggest fears during these tensions was the possibility that the Strait of Hormuz could be disrupted. This narrow waterway is one of the most critical oil shipping routes in the entire world. Roughly a fifth of global oil shipments move through this corridor, which means even a temporary disruption could send shockwaves through the global energy system. Despite the rising tensions, the Strait of Hormuz has remained open so far. However, the situation did create pressure in another area that many people do not normally think about: maritime insurance. Large oil tankers cannot simply move billions of dollars worth of oil through high-risk waters without insurance coverage. When geopolitical risk increases, insurance companies sometimes withdraw coverage to avoid catastrophic financial exposure. Reports circulated that major insurers, including firms connected to the Lloyd's of London market, were reassessing or pulling coverage for shipments traveling through high-risk zones. If large insurers stop covering those shipments, oil transportation can slow dramatically because ship operators are legally and financially exposed. In extreme cases, this alone can disrupt the flow of oil, even if the shipping lanes themselves remain physically open. To stabilize the situation, the United States reportedly moved to support global energy logistics by stepping in with financial mechanisms designed to reduce the insurance gap and maintain energy transport stability. The broader goal was simple: keep oil moving and prevent sudden supply shocks that could send prices soaring across global markets. Oil stability matters deeply for Iraq because the country's economy is heavily dependent on energy exports. Oil revenue represents the majority of the Iraqi government's income and funds everything from public salaries to infrastructure development. When oil prices rise, Iraq can generate more revenue, but only if production and exports remain steady. At the moment, oil markets are showing signs of upward pressure again. Prices recently moved toward the $80 range per barrel, and some analysts have begun discussing the possibility of prices moving closer to $100 if regional tensions continue. For Iraq, this creates both opportunity and risk. Higher oil prices can strengthen government revenue and improve budget stability, but production interruptions or export disruptions would cancel out that advantage. Because of these pressures, Iraqi economic planners have been carefully balancing production decisions. Maintaining stable oil output while navigating geopolitical risks is critical for keeping the country's financial system stable during this period of reform. And that brings us to the second major development, the ongoing modernization of Iraq's banking system. Over the last several years, the Central Bank of Iraq has been implementing a series of financial reforms designed to bring the country's banking infrastructure closer to international standards. This process has not been fast, and it has required extensive changes in regulation, technology, and compliance procedures. One of the most important upgrades involves international payment communication systems used between banks worldwide. Global financial institutions rely on standardized messaging networks to transfer money, confirm transactions, and verify financial documentation. These systems allow banks in different countries to interact securely and efficiently. Iraq has been gradually upgrading its banking infrastructure to align with newer international messaging standards used in global finance. These upgrades allow Iraqi banks to communicate more effectively with foreign institutions and participate more smoothly in international transactions, trade financing, and investment flows. Alongside technological improvements, Iraq has also been working toward stronger compliance with international financial oversight organizations. Institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and global anti-money laundering frameworks monitor financial transparency, regulatory enforcement, and banking stability across countries. Meeting these standards is essential for any nation that wants deeper access to global capital markets. When a country's financial system meets strict international compliance requirements, it becomes easier for foreign investors, multinational banks, and international organizations to conduct business inside that country. For Iraq, this modernization effort is not just about banking technology. It is about building the credibility needed to fully integrate into the global financial system after decades of sanctions, conflict, and economic isolation. This is why analysts often say that financial infrastructure reforms typically happen before major monetary policy changes. A country cannot realistically support large international capital flows or major currency adjustments if its banking network is not prepared to handle global financial traffic. In simple terms, strong banking infrastructure creates the foundation that allows a currency system to function within the wider global economy. Another topic that continues to appear in discussions about Iraq's economic future is the long-delayed Hydrocarbon Law. This piece of legislation has been debated in Iraq for many years and is considered one of the key structural reforms connected to the country's oil sector. The Hydrocarbon Law is designed to define how oil revenue is distributed between the federal government, regional authorities, and local populations. Because oil represents the central source of national income, this law plays a major role in political stability and long-term economic planning. Without clear revenue-sharing rules, disputes between different regions can create uncertainty for investors and slow development in the energy sector. A finalized hydrocarbon framework could help reduce these tensions and create clearer expectations for both domestic stakeholders and international energy companies operating in Iraq. From time to time, reports emerge suggesting that parts of this law may already be drafted or awaiting final approval. However, it is important to remember that Iraqi politics can be complex and legislative progress often moves slowly. Until official announcements are made, discussions about the Hydrocarbon Law should be viewed as ongoing developments rather than completed reforms. Still, the continued conversation around this law shows that economic restructuring remains an active topic inside Iraq's leadership circles. Another area that attracts significant speculation is the potential future value of the Iraqi dinar itself. Within the dinar-watching community, there are often discussions about possible exchange rate adjustments or long-term currency reforms. Some commentators suggest that Iraq may eventually seek a stronger exchange rate once its economy and financial infrastructure are fully stabilized. However, it is important to approach these discussions carefully. Exchange rate changes depend on many complex factors including inflation control, monetary reserves, trade balance, foreign investment flows, and overall economic productivity. Historically, the Iraqi dinar did trade at a much stronger level decades ago, before wars, sanctions, and economic disruption dramatically altered the country's financial system. But modern exchange rate policy is influenced by current economic realities, not just historical comparisons. Economists often explain that currency values reflect the overall strength and competitiveness of a country's economy. Any long-term adjustment in the dinar's value would likely be tied to sustained economic growth, improved financial governance, stable oil revenue, and increased integration with global markets. For that reason, many analysts focus less on specific rate predictions and more on the structural reforms taking place inside Iraq. Banking modernization, trade integration, investment frameworks, and energy sector stability are the types of developments that can gradually strengthen a country's economic position over time. Another topic sometimes mentioned in discussions about Iraq's economic future is its relationship with international trade organizations. Iraq has been working for years toward deeper participation in global trade systems. Membership or expanded cooperation with international trade bodies can help countries attract foreign investment and improve market access for exports. For Iraq, expanding its role in global trade would support diversification beyond oil by encouraging manufacturing, agriculture, and service sectors to grow. A more diversified economy typically provides stronger long-term support for a national currency because economic activity becomes less dependent on a single commodity. While many developments are moving forward, the timing of major economic milestones remains uncertain. Financial reforms, legislative agreements, geopolitical stability, and global economic conditions all influence the pace of change. In regions affected by political complexity and international tensions, economic transitions often move more slowly than investors expect. Progress usually comes through incremental reforms rather than sudden dramatic shifts. What makes the current moment interesting for observers is that multiple reform areas appear to be progressing simultaneously. Banking modernization is advancing, oil markets remain strong, international financial compliance efforts are continuing, and discussions about structural economic laws have not disappeared. These are the kinds of signals analysts monitor when evaluating a country's long-term economic trajectory. Still, it is essential to separate confirmed developments from speculation. Many reports circulating online come from informal sources or interpretations rather than official announcements. Until policies are formally released by Iraqi authorities or verified by international financial institutions, they should be viewed as possibilities rather than confirmed outcomes. For those following the Iraqi dinar closely, the most practical approach is to focus on verifiable economic indicators, government reforms, central bank policy decisions, trade developments, oil production stability, and international financial integration. These real-world factors ultimately shape the long-term strength of any national currency. As Iraq continues rebuilding its economy after decades of instability, each reform step contributes to a larger transformation that may take years to fully unfold. Progress in financial transparency, banking technology, investment frameworks, and energy management all play a role in determining the country's economic future. Whether the dinar eventually experiences major valuation changes or simply strengthens gradually through economic growth will depend on how successfully these reforms continue. For now, the signals coming out of Iraq suggest a country that is slowly positioning itself for deeper participation in the global financial system while navigating complex regional challenges. As always, developments in currency policy and national economies can change quickly, and predictions should be treated with caution. The information discussed here reflects ongoing economic analysis and publicly discussed developments, not confirmed financial outcomes or investment guarantees.